Thanks. Joining us now, Steve McMahon, a Democratic strategist and the co-founder of Purple Strategies. Was that founded by Prince? What is that? I don't, do you know what is that? Oh, red and blue together make purple, is that it?
Red and blue. Joe, everything you need to know about it, you learn in kindergarten, right? Red and blue together, bipartisan firm. We do everything.
Yeah, but I call kindergarten my senior year. And then former Minnesota Congressman Vin Weber, he's a partner at Mercury. Vin, I want to start with you because you said something interesting in the pre-interview, and that is that a couple of weeks ago, the GOP establishment was actually trying to come to grips with a Trump candidacy. And that got derailed, and that's no longer the case. And I guess last night's not going to help.
No, I think it's the case that a few weeks ago, Trump was on a roll. It looked like he would get close to, if not over, the 1237 number. And a lot of the Republican Party leadership was thinking, okay, wait, how do we get comfortable with this? He's a deal maker. He's a negotiator. Maybe we can get comfortable with him and you know, try to get the party united behind the guy who looks like he's going to win. A couple of things have happened. First of all, he no longer looks like he's going to win. I don't think he's going to win. But second of all, you know, he's gotten himself in a mess about the abortion issue over the last few weeks. He's gotten in a mess over the issue of nuclear weapons. These are big political minefields that the average politician, not even the great politician, the average politician manages to avoid. So I think that this momentum within kind of the establishment, if you want to use that term, to get comfortable with Trump has been stopped cold, and last night it was buried in Wisconsin.
You got a different case, Steve, on the other side, and that is, I'd like to just assume Hillary's the nominee and just get started, but you know, this is dragging on with Bernie Sanders, so we got to hear all the far left rhetoric and, you know, democratic socialism, and then Hillary moves that way. I wish you could just get on with it and see what you really thought in the general election, but you can't, because the guy's going to hang around.
Yeah, that's the thing about democracy. So everybody gets to have a voice and a vote. But I think for practical purposes, you know, Bernie Sanders has momentum. He's won 6 out of 7 of the last contested primaries. He's going into New York with a huge amount of momentum. Every time he wins, he raises tons and tons of money. So his message is going to be well-funded. He's going to be well-funded. But the math really doesn't change. Last night, on the Republican side, Ted Cruz got 30 more delegates by beating Donald Trump, at least 30, maybe as many as 36 more, because there are 6 still left to determine. And on the Democratic side, Bernie Sanders won by a similar margin, but he only got 3 delegates more than Hillary Clinton. So this thing is effectively over by the math, but we're going to continue to have these contests.
Does it make her stronger, or does it? Remember, Republicans in the primary say they love to damage their main candidate. You remember what happened to poor Mitt Romney from Newt Gingrich. Is this helping her? Is it making her battle-tested, or is it damaging her?
Well, it depends what happens at the end. I actually think a robust debate inside the Democratic Party is good for the party. I think bringing all these new people in is great for the party. The question is whether the party comes together as we all think it should and will. And if it does, you know, then we'll be fine. Nothing so mobilizes Democrats as the prospect of Donald Trump being president, and that will be ultimately the motivator here.
Gentlemen, let me just read something to you, and Vin, both of you can comment on this if you will. This is Holman Jenkins, who I love, in the Wall Street Journal this morning, effectively writing Donald Trump's obituary, at least his presidential obituary. He says that Trump has never been all in, and he says the most obvious way in this is his unwillingness to put up his own money, but he says that it represents something larger, his unwillingness to work out the whole path to the presidency, his commitment to do it to succeed, to control his mouth and recruit credible advisors and do all of that. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the great reality here is we've been mesmerized by Donald Trump's reality show for a long time. He's run a terrible campaign, and it's now beginning to show in places like Louisiana, where he didn't get the delegates. Cruz got the delegates because he was better organized. In Wisconsin last night. Yeah, if Trump had run a professional campaign, put in some of his own money, a lot of his own money, because he brags about not raising any from anybody else, he might be in a much stronger position. He's in a very weak position. In fact, I'd go so far as to say of the 3 remaining candidates on the Republican side, the least likely nominee is Donald Trump.
So who are you saying that you think Ted Cruz will be the nominee? You think there'll be somebody who's not even on
the... I didn't
say that. I think Cruz is more likely than Trump. I think Kasich is more likely than Trump. I'm personally a Kasich supporter. But we're not going to nominate on the first ballot. So the question becomes, who has the most second choices among the delegates? After we go through the first ballot, nobody gets a majority. Where do people move? I don't see anybody moving to Donald Trump. I think a lot of people will move away from him.
Vin, but if
and
you
then we'll
land
see.
somewhere in the middle or you land with a Paul Ryan or somebody completely new, won't that just suggest that the whole thing is so broken that when it comes to actually the national election, it becomes much more complicated and difficult?
Well, I'm a longtime friend and big admirer of Paul Ryan's, but I think, you know, I'm from a state where we choose candidates through conventions. I've been doing this all my life. The delegates almost always prefer someone who has worked for the nomination, even if they've lost the primaries, even if they aren't first, second, or third. Somebody like Kasich, Rubio, who has gone through the primary process, gone through the debates, asked the delegates for their support, is usually preferable to somebody who hasn't gone through the process.
I think we just heard it. I think we just heard it. It's the beginning of the Marco Rubio for president re-boomlet.
But
I'm
it could be
a
Jeb.
supporter.
It could be Jeb. It could be.
You are right
anybody.
now, but you are right now. But you know, Vin's absolutely right. This probably
observation.
will go to a convention. He's not going to get 1,237 votes going in, and he'll bleed out on the floor because after the first ballot, the people who are these delegates, they don't really like Donald Trump. They're bound to him. They have to vote for him in the first ballot, but they'd like to vote for somebody else. I actually think Vin is absolutely right about Donald being the least likely nominee, but I think Republicans are increasingly going to be looking outside the field, whether it's Marco Rubio or, as you just mentioned, Paul Ryan, because Paul Ryan's one of the few figures in the Republican Party who actually has lines into all these groups that are fighting right now. And he could be a consensus, presumably. He could bring people together, be a consensus nominee. The Trump people would be disappointed, but I think, again, you know, they would have to choose between Hillary Clinton and Paul Ryan then.
Exactly.
And if you're a Republican, you know, that would be not very difficult.
He's going to bleed out on the. You're a purple. I thought purple was like kinder and gentler and both.
Well, no, but I mean, here's what's going to happen.
Do you know what that
these
means?
These are all establishment
horrible.
Republicans who don't want to support Trump.
I don't even
They'll
want to
vote
think
for
about
him.
bleeding out. Right? I think I get a
Okay,
cut.
so
I
he
cut
will.
myself shaving. I get
He will
scared of that.
slowly lose the blood in his body and become cold and dead on the
not any
floor.
better.
Why don't we say the
But
air
they
is
don't-
coming up?
they don't like
That's a better analysis. I think Trump just got a little cocky a couple, 3 weeks ago. I think he was starting to think he was going to win, starting to measure
Well,
the
when you
curtains.
say I
He
can
maybe figure
shoot-
out the marble for the White House, and did some they had a
I
terrible
could
interview
shoot
with the Washington
someone.
Post.
I could shoot someone on the streets of New York and still get.
But remember,
Remember, say that.
only
But
about
he's-
25%
but
of the
he's
country
no-
supported him,
he's-
because most
he's-
Democrats obviously did, and most Republicans did. So if you actually looked at the data, he was
Hey, look, we still have the New York primary coming up, and he could pick up momentum again coming back into the
very
Northeast.
well. Obviously,
Yeah,
he's
in
strong,
Mid-Atlantic
strong
states.
in New York, so it's never over till it's over. My guess it will go to the convention, and my guess it probably won't be Trump. But who it will be, I don't know. But it feels like we're moving in a different direction.
All right, gentlemen. I think. Thank you, Steve and Vin. I'm so
Thank you.
happy with the.